We are at our last week with Bankfoot House, and we're kind of moving into my generation, which I'm really excited about. So we're with the Ferris family from 1965 to 2004. So obviously I'm still around after 2004, but I'm an early 1960s child, so this is an exciting time for me. Hello, Anne. How are you?
Hi, Robin. I'm really well, thank you. How are you?
Fabulous. Thank you for joining us. And you're inside Bankfoot House. How wonderful.
I am. I'm seated in the dining room in the 1930s extensions, and I'm sitting here at the Ferris family dining table.
How nice is that? I mean, I love dining tables, and I love a dining table that has been around for a long time, because you can just begin to imagine the incredible conversations and all of the joys and sorrows and all of those things that have happened around a dining table.
Absolutely, absolutely. We've got a few dining tables in our collection here, and I think they've been gathering spots for many, many years. This property, people have come together and joined for food. So we've always been around tables, all these conversations.
Yeah, how fabulous. Now, Anne, what do you have to share with us, story-wise or object-wise?
Sure. So we're talking about the Ferris family today, so I thought I'd give us all a bit of context and tell everyone a little bit more about the Ferris family. They're our last generation to have lived here at Bankfoot House, but it certainly wasn't the first time that either Jack or Mary have lived here at Bankfoot. Mary Ferris, née Burgess, was actually born here at Bankfoot House Christmas Day, 1902, and she was the firstborn daughter of William and Clementina Burgess, who we spoke about last week. And Jack Ferris actually came here to stay as a young boy when his mother was giving birth to his younger brother, and it was during that stay in 1908 that Jack and Mary tied some epiphytes, some beautiful big staghorns and elkhorns to the large Moreton Bay fig that we've got at the backyard at Bankfoot House. It's a really beautiful story, a little romantic really, if you think about Jack and Mary in their retirement years, watching their children and grandchildren play under the shade of the tree, as they do in this family. And then we've got Ruby, Edith and Kevin. And they moved to Brisbane, and the family ran a mixed grocery store slash cafe down at Breakfast Creek Road in Newstead. And Jack was working with the Australian Army, working at the stores base there in Brisbane. And they purchased the 2-acre lot that we're on here at Bankfoot House now from Mary's younger brother, Bill Burgess, in 1965. And it was when Jack retired from the Australian Army that they actually moved into the house. They'd owned it for about a year before that. And apparently on Boxing Day 1966, they moved into Bankfoot. And it saw a shift in the way that this property was run, because it now became a family home, no longer a commercial business, and it wasn't, they weren't running a farm from the property either anymore. So in their retirement years here at Bankfoot, they spent some time travelling, which we'll talk a bit more about on. And after Mary's passing in 1987, Jack Ferris was actually responsible for donating one of the original Cobb & Co coaches that were here at the property. He donated that to the Cobb & Co Museum in Toowoomba. Jack was the last member of their family to live here at Bankfoot House, and he had his 100th birthday here at Bankfoot House in 2001 and passed away the following year, 101 and a half, his family say he was. But Jack was really aware of his wife's family's pioneering history and the value that had on the story of early Queensland and, more importantly, the Sunshine Coast. And so he'd sort of scripted the family prior to his passing that this house and all of the contents in it should be sold to become a house museum, which it is today. So in 2004, the family sold the property and contents to Caloundra City Council at the time. And a group was formed, the Friends of Bankfoot House, locals that are interested in history, and they sort of assisted here volunteering, managing the collection and the property at the time. And the first tours started in 2015. They were just run monthly on a Sunday, But in more recent times, Sunshine Coast Council has sort of upped up the management of this property and how we deliver what we do in accordance with having the Cultural Heritage Levy. So now our state-listed heritage property is open to the public 3 days a week, and we're really excited that this Sunday we're back to our full open hours, and all of our tours here are free of charge. So to our first object though, Robin, that you asked me, talking about the travel that they did in their retirement, we spoke about in the last couple of weeks, we've looked at a few letters that we have in our collection here. We've got a large paper-based collection, and as well as letters, we also have a number of diaries in that collection. And we have these fantastic Ferris family travel diaries. These are all been written by Mary Ferris whilst her and Jack were travelling during their retirement. They started around 1971 and they go through to 1979, and they tell the tale of Jack and Mary's travels to Victoria, New South Wales, Canberra, Queensland, the Northern Territory and New Zealand. They're mostly written in these sort of style spiral notebooks, but we've got some written in old school exercise books. There are 9 of these sorts of diaries in our collection, and they contain all sorts of interesting facts about how much money they took with them on their travels, itemised expenditure for the trip, including how much the fuel cost per gallon and the name of every single service station they stopped at en route. Mary tells us things like what time they set off every day, and you can hear a tone in her frustration when she tells us that there's more ongoing car troubles, as you can imagine, and further hold-ups. And she itemises and documents almost every minute of the day. And I think we're kind of fortunate. Mary spent some time being the official secretary for the Landsborough Museum, and clearly her note-taking was why she got that gig, because she documents everything down, as I say, to the last minute. So another interesting little story was that when Mary passed away in 1987, her handbag was put away by the family into the wardrobe. And so it wasn't until the collection started to be accessioned in 2004, we became a museum, we found Mary's handbag, I should say, was found in that wardrobe. And in there was one of her original diaries, including travel receipts from 1971. So for about 16 years, she was carrying around these things. But today I thought I'd share with you some of Jack and Mary's travels from 1974. And they're headed off to the Northern Territory. This is the first entry, and I know you've got some images there, so I'll just start reading, shall I? It opens up saying, Stemetal, Mavis, blood pressure. Commenced the journey Wednesday the 31st of July 1974. Left home at 11:10 a.m. Cash on hand, pension $35, extra $10 each pay, $90. They travelled along Gympie Road to Coochen, then to Peachester, Commissioner's Flat at 11:36 a.m, G Ferris Corner 11:38 a.m, Kilcoy Junction 11:48 a.m, Kilcoy 12:05 p.m. You kind of get the feeling how this is going to continue. They've stopped at the Shell garage and they've got themselves 5 1/4 gallons at 58 2/10 cents per gallon, which cost them a total of $3.90. So they've stayed a night in Blackhall Park, and Mary and Jack are setting off in the morning, and she says they're leaving the park at 8:05 a.m. The choke's gone again, as usual. Went on at 8:15 a.m. and they've hit Balcolden at 9:38 and they're stopped for some more fuel. Had drinks for 43 cents and they've got milk. She took the round bottle, so I'm assuming that's from home. That cost her 21 cents, and then she moves on at 9:55 and they continue on. She mentions that she's purchased a loaf of bread for 41 cents, and then they've done some washing and Bill and Mavis arrive. The following morning, Bill goes into town because he's got trouble with his car. He got his car fixed up and they've had lunch and they're off to Longreach at 1:05 p.m. Bill happens to be Jack and Mary's eldest son, and they've joined them on the trip, including his wife Mavis. And as families go, there's usually some challenges on the road, and this can sort of be, we kind of get a feeling from this as we move through the diary. So we're now in Northern Territory and we've skipped forward a few weeks. That's the 29th of August and we're at Mataranka Homestead. And Mary kind of gives us a hint at, I'm sure they wouldn't have wanted this on TripAdvisor, but she's doing an early TripAdvisor here. Mataranka Homestead, arrived at the homestead, went to look for a site and finally parked at 5:05 p.m. 60 cents per person. We paid $1.20. No power, cold showers, no hand basins, a real dump, lousy stay. 2 drinks for 85 cents. She goes on from there to say that they left at 7:45 in the morning, and then they've gone on a 4-wheel drive tour and they've gone through some really wild bush to the thermal springs, stopped and had morning tea that was provided. The coach captain boiled the billy and supplied biscuits. She's wrote in commas, bush biscuits, really large and hard. Moved on again, travelling through quite rough bush to a place called Mataranka Falls. At 11:53 a.m, they all had a drink of water, and they've moved on again at 11:55 a.m. Stopped again at 12:13 p.m. to take photos of the Roper River. The 31st of August, they've left the wonderful homestead, in brackets, I don't think so, at 8:10 a.m. No power, no laundry, cold showers, no hand basins, and they've waited at the junction for Bill and Mavis, who were still talking. Finally, Bill and Mavis came, and they left the junction at 9 a.m. On the 31st of August, she notes, Jack went to the van and showered. Bill and Mavis went back to the shop, goodness knows what for, probably bits and pieces for Shane, as usual, or to talk to men at work. Bill and Mavis went to the shop and got half a pound of butter for 39 cents. And Mavis and Bill complained of the noise and the smell in the park, so we packed up and moved out to the drive-in when it finished and parked there for the rest of the night. On the 1st of September, she comments that they rose early to get breakfast for everyone and they couldn't find Bill. He was missing. After us rising at 5 a.m. and getting breakfast ready and everything, they did not turn up until 20 past 6 in the morning. The next day they go off to the shop and she itemises everything that they've purchased, including what Bill and Mavis bought. So she's got a fan for $12.50 and some stockings, groceries for $9.18, a shirt for $1.99, a spring for a car. And during the morning shopping, she notes that Bill and Mavis brought shorts and shirts. They got home at 3:30 and had a cup of tea. And Dad and Bill got busy on both cars with the springs. I got tea ready on my own. When Mavis came in, it was all cooked, and she said, I've done my washing, I've washed my hair, and I had a shower now. What is there to be done? Nothing, as usual, comments Mary. I think there might have been a few people getting on one another's nerves.
I'm loving that, Anne, because, you really do have those kind of relationships with people. And I remember sharing a story about my mother-in-law who had probably a similar relationship with her mother-in-law. And it was of that same era. So I can just picture it.
It's quite comical. And I think the thing that's quite amusing is that very first page, we can't quite work out that very first line that's got Stemetel being the medication that's a sedative, full stop, Mavis blood pressure. Now, we're not sure if Mavis had blood pressure issues or if Mavis was causing the blood pressure issues, but it certainly gives us something all to have a bit of a laugh at.
Absolutely. And tell me, is Shane the grandchild?
That's correct. That's Bill and Mavis's son. Yeah, it's quite amusing. So as you can imagine, there's 9 of those diaries. They do go on a bit sometimes with the timing, but there is some really comical things in there, and it gives us a real insight into the sort of woman Mary was, the things they were interested in. They're always off looking at heritage sites when they go off and see things. So it's really quite interesting that we're all here now telling their story just as they probably saw going on tours themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that methodical note-taking can help you to remember everything obviously everything that you've done. But when you say that all of those diaries were in her handbag for that amount of time, I wonder what she thought she was going. Do you think she ever read back over them, or?
So it was just the one. It was the one that was one diary was in there from a 1971 trip, including some of the receipts from that trip.
Okay.
So maybe she'd even forgot that it was even in there. Don't know. It was just an interesting thing that Mary had been using that handbag because there was receipts for the day that she passed. She'd been to the shops.
Wow.
So these things had been in there for 16 years. The bag and its contents are actually on display at the moment in the Mary Grigger Centre on exhibition.
That's fascinating. I mean, I don't have a lot of handbags, but when I change a handbag and then revisit it, then yes, I find some very peculiar things that are still in there. So
a woman's handbag, you never know what's in there.
I know, don't go there. Oh, that's hilarious. Now, I might like to share something of something that I'm collecting. And I said before that I've been going down to my mother-in-law and have been bringing up. I said, "Oh, Mum, can I just borrow a few of these doilies?" And she said, "Yes, of course you can." So I've brought up a few of these beautiful doilies, and they've all been hand stitched. Some by her mother. This one here with the bluebird, her mother made. And there's so many of them that I have no idea what I'm going to do with them. And I've heard stories of people using them to make tablecloths or bunting or clothing, that kind of thing. What do you think, Anne? There's so many. What am I going to do with them all?
Oh, they make a lovely bedspread. You put them all together, stitch them onto a good heavy flat sheet. Make a nice summer bedspread. I do love a doily.
Yeah, I love a doily. I mean, you can also do them as bowl covers, weight them down with some beautiful beads or something and make them that. But I'm really liking the idea of the bedspread. Actually, that's a great idea. I think I'm going to do it.
Yeah, and you can sort of decorate it out, lay them all out and have your favourites in the middle.
Yeah, that's a fabulous idea. What other item do you have to share?
Well, this one's a little bit of fun. We've got this fabulous Ronson 66, apparently every modern woman's dream. So what it is a hairdryer. So you can see the unit in there. I know you've got some images there, but we've got the hood. So this would go on, it would attach into that unit, and being a modern woman, she could use the strap here to carry it around. I know you've got an image to show that. But this beautiful piece, so it's a hood-type hairdryer. The idea is that the dryer unit could be over your shoulder, like a handbag, leaving you free to carry out the chores that you had to do, such as preparing a meal or cleaning or relaxing in front of the television, or maybe for Mary travelling around the country. But I don't think that was quite the case. So this Ronson Model 66 hairdryer was a Mother's Day gift to Mary Ferris from her children. Like most objects in our collection, we have the receipts, the warranty cards, the manuals, and everything that goes with it. And this object there's no exception either. It is still contained in its original box, as I've just showed you. And that was also inside of its original shipping box. And the Mother's Day card was stored inside of that with the other material. And the card itself reads, from Dad, Clem, Andy and family, Bill, Mavis and family, Ruby, Royce and family, Edith, Noel and family. And there's a note at the bottom in Mary's handwriting, which is just slightly different to the handwriting on that card, noting that the youngest son, Kevin, also gave a gift of a photo or a picture frame by all accounts. I guess it's one of those gifts like we all do in our families, and everyone throws in a little bit of money so you can buy a larger gift. And it appears that Kevin wasn't contributing to that one and he bought his own gift instead. But I love how Mary thought she'd leave a note that the youngest still bought her a gift. But this beautiful hairdryer is completely in mint condition. In fact, the strap still has its original sticky tape to hold it together. I don't even think it's ever been unwound, but it is in mint condition. And I would say, in my opinion, rarely used. I don't know that Mary was the sort of woman that did a lot of primping and preening. So I don't know how many times this beautiful piece got a workout, but it's, as I was saying, it's a real collector's piece and completely in all of its gear, but it's just lovely. And I really must say I love that image of that lady in the manual, holding it up, and off she goes to do whatever she needs. There's also pictures in the box itself that shows ladies watering the pot plants. You can do your hair, get around and do all of your household chores all at the same time. A little bit of fun in the 60s, I suppose.
Yeah, look, I was thinking about that too, because it is in such perfect condition, and I wonder whether Mary felt that it was a frivolous and unnecessarily expensive gift, and perhaps she never really ever used it.
Well, the fact that it was still in the cupboard, completely in all of its packaging, including the shipping, and the card was even in there, I wonder if she went, oh, well, thank you all very much, and popped it away.
And sometimes people are given something that is almost too good to use, so you couldn't possibly use it.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Exactly.
How old would Mary have been when she was given that?
Well, Mary was born in 1902, so she would have been in her late 50s.
Yeah, okay.
Or, early 60s, depending. We don't know what year. It's a 66, but it's when I looked it up, it doesn't actually have a manufacturing date.
Okay.
So whether it is 1966 or it was the next model or not, not sure. But I would say she would have been late 50s, mid 60s at the time.
Well,
it was probably to ease having to go to the hairdresser and get her set, get the curls done all the time.
And that was the thing, wasn't it? Because I remember my nana used to go and get her hair set all of the time, and my mum would get her hair set. And just because you've got that, I'm struggling here, and you can hear all of this stuff going on. But I have one too, but mine is, and they're waiting for me to put this on my head, and I'm not quite ready to do that. So I've got a lady sunbeam.
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful, and similarly, it has the strap so that you can walk around with it over your shoulder. It is a plug-in though, and I know that the Ronson will be as well. You have to plug it in. So seriously, how far can you go with it? Because you've got to have an extension lead. Can you just see yourself trailing this extension lead all around the house? I can't. But look, I will put this on because it's all... When my mother was alive, she would say, Robin, one day in the future, they'll get rid of leads and I won't have to worry about leads anymore. Well, I have to tell her that they haven't. There's still leads everywhere. I'm going to put this on because it is rather gorgeous. It is not anywhere near the condition of Mary's, I have to say, which is unfortunate. But it's still delightful, and I'm just going to pop it on because it's quite the treat, isn't it?
That's fantastic.
I know. It's beautiful. I love the flower too. So this is not my mother's. My mother did have one, and this is not hers because she didn't have the flower on it. But when I saw this somewhere, I thought I just have to have it. And what I do like about it, and ours was a lady sunbeam, is that it has the case. So,
nice.
Yeah, so it's actually the case that goes in it. But look, it's a little worn, it's a little threadbare, it's lacking love, but I think it's gorgeous.
That's a fantastic piece.
Yeah, and I'd never use it because, this is just so dreadful, and the plug's all frayed. So it's not going to happen. I'm not plugging it in.
Might go up in flames, Robin.
I know, I could go out with a bang. But I do recall using it when we had it when I was a child, and I loved nothing more. It was almost a meditative thing. I'd put it on, I'd pull it down over my ears, I'd turn it on, and I'd sit there and just listen to the buzz and feel that warmth. It was lovely.
They can be really quite hot. I remember my mother had one and she used to faint doing her hair. I remember that as a little girl. So
wow.
I don't know, maybe that's why Mary wasn't using it. I don't know. But they're fantastic things.
Well, we were in Sydney and it was cold down there, so it was really quite lovely.
Thank goodness technology's moved on and it's a little bit easier to have some curls in our hair.
Yeah, well, have you seen the rollers that I've been using? Toilet rolls that I've just torn in half, and I went and bought some bobby pins. So I've been using those, and it's really they're quite effective. I've used them over and over and over again, and they really didn't cost me anything. And it's quite the fashion statement. Everyone comments when I go out with my rollers in my hair, and they say, Robin, are they toilet rolls? Is that what you're wearing? And I go, it is.
You're Mary's kind of girl, Robin.
Yeah, well, you can just do anything these days and no one cares. Oh, dear. Now, Anne, have you got anything else that you'd like to tell us about or share or anything?
Objects to share with you today, but I suppose I'd just like to share with everyone that we are free here at Bankfoot House. We're open to the public Friday, Saturday and Sunday as of this week. So we're really excited to be back to our full hours. It's by booking, so just visit our website or you can call us here at Bankfoot House. I know you've got all of our details that'll come up at the end. And we also do education programs. We take group tour bookings. So contact us and come on out for a visit and see for yourself and enjoy some of these wonderful stories that are here at Bankfoot House.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thanks, Anne. I've got 100 questions that have come to me as we've been talking, so I think we might get out there again for another visit.
We'd love to have you out here again.
Thanks, Anne. Thank you for watching. We will be back next week. It might be Wednesday, it might be Friday even. It's a busy week next week, so I think it might be Friday. Tune in. Thanks, Anne.
Most welcome, Robin.
That was great. I really do have 100 questions. So the store that they had on Breakfast Creek Road, I used to go to a little shop on Breakfast Creek Road when my mum, in the 70s, in the early 70s, about 73 or 74, when my mum worked in a business along Breakfast Creek Road.
Oh, right.
I wonder if it might have been the same store. They would have gone by then, but...
I think it was number 24.
Okay, well...
I don't know how I've retained that, but I've just got in my head from their envelopes. I've got a feeling it was number 24, but it was their little mixed cafe grocery shop.
Yeah. Was it on a...
And I think they lived next door, right, next door.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then another thing is that we had people that we worked with, some I was going to say accomplices, but that's the wrong word.
What work are you in, Robert?
Yeah. They're not accomplices. Yes, some colleagues who bought an old building on Breakfast Creek Road and made it into their workplace, their studio. And I have a feeling that it would have been, and it was a really old building. So, yeah, anyway.
Fantastic.
Fascinating stuff.